Today we're going to be making 5 fun farmhouse, because that's what I do here on my channel, summer home decor DIY crafts. I decided to do 3 that are medium to more advanced and then 2 that are very simple that anybody can do. I like to always include different levels of skills here on my channel because I know that there are some of you that are just brand new to crafting, and for those that are more advanced who aren't afraid of the power tools and want to go for it, I welcome you as well, because those are so much fun. So whatever skill level you are on, from beginning to more advanced, I welcome you all here in my craft room today. Now let's pick up our scissors, warm up those hot glue guns, and let's get crafting. Start by picking up a pack of painter sticks. When I pick mine up from my home improvement store, they have 10 in a pack, which is perfect. And we're going to line them all out. I'm lining them up here on my cutting mat, where you can see that they're an inch spaced apart. Now at this point, I'm going to figure out the height that I want these painter sticks to be. The middle point is going to be the highest, and then it's going to come down in evens after that, or I guess odds, because in the next 2, which would make 3, then you can see they're staggering down one by one until you've got 4 lower on one side and 4 lower on the other side where they're equal. Then I'm going to glue them together with some of these larger tongue depressor sticks that, well, they're like jumbos. I picked these up from Walmart. You're going to go ahead and glue these down 4 pieces on the back so they all become one big unit, because we're making a picket fence gate door. I thought this idea would be so sweet for the summertime home decor. All right, now we're going to take some of these stacking tumbling blocks from the Dollar Tree, glue 2 together and then another 2, and then bring those 4 pieces all together as one long unit. You're going to repeat that 4 times. Once you've got 4 of them done, you're going to be using those for the legs of our door gate. We want to be able to make sure it can stand upright, which is going to just make it look so whimsical and perfect for summertime. Now go ahead and put some hot glue to bring them together on the front and the back side. And you can see here when I went to put it down, I decided to add even more hot glue because there is a bit of a gap and you want that glue to come together. So once you've got that all on there, nice and situated, you can take it outside and spray paint it whatever color you want. Now I love a white picket fence, so I'm going to go ahead and spray paint my white. Now I want my fence to look like it's got layers of paint on it that has been weathered over the years. So I'm going to start by giving it some distressing, and you can see I came in pretty heavy. For me, this is actually heavy. I know for distressed rustic farmhouse lovers, this is not heavy, this is kind of light. But I came in for what I say is heavy. And now I'm going to use some of this crackle paint. I'll make sure to link it down below, but I just picked this up from Joann's. And then I'm going to go ahead and just put a nice coat of that all over, because once it's dry, then I come back in with more white paint, and you can see I'm putting on that white paint nice and thick. The thicker the better with this crackle paint stuff that I just put on, because then the paint starts to crack and it makes the fence look like it's really weathered from being outside. I put it aside to let it dry and to do its magic, and then I decided to come in with some of this leaf garland, and I'm going to just keep wrapping it and coiling it around until I get a nice little wreath. You don't have to do this part, but I thought it would be so sweet to put a wreath on the gate door. And then I'm going to just add a little gingham bow. Make sure that the tails are not too long, so I'm going to trim those down some. And then so that I can change the bow, I'm only putting hot glue at the very top of the wreath. That way I can lift up the bow when I want to, and I can change it out for different seasons, and it'll last me longer than just one season. Now go ahead and pick up a little handle for your gate door, and then a couple of hinges. And I just picked these up from my home improvement store. Glue those down into place, and then you want to make sure you don't see that hot glue. So I'm going to come back in once it's dry with some black paint to tap inside where the hot glue dots came through. And with that, you have a whimsical gate door to display for your season. This project is so quick. I found these darling houses at the Dollar Tree. I loved that they had the gingham on the front, but I wanted to dress it up a little bit more. So I'm going to take some white ribbon and I'm just going to make a simple bow. I don't want it to be too long because it's going to be towards the bottom of my little house. And now I'm going to take some hot glue and I'm going to just simply glue that bow on and glue on that greenery. This is going to jazz it up a little bit instead of it just being a plain house, which, by the way, it's already so cute, right? It doesn't need it, but why stop there when you can personalize these kind of things and make them your own? Now, could you imagine? You could do any type of floral on the front of this house and any color bow to match your decor to personalize it. So I'm just adding some greenery and I'm adding that bow. And then I thought I'm going to add a little wooden heart because it perfectly matched the trim of the roof. And at this point, it's just so beautiful. If you're new or returning and you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet because you're not quite sure, I want to take a second to introduce myself to you. So my name is Heidi Sombel and this is my DIY craft channel. I've been crafting my whole life because I'm a third generation crafter. My grandmother and my mother were the ones that paved the way. I am obsessed with crafting. I can't get enough of it. I eat, sleep, and breathe it practically. I'm just so grateful that you are here, that you came to stop by to see what I'm up to in my craft room, and I hope you will consider staying and sticking around a little bit longer. Remember too, there is a great community that's down below in the description box. I love when people chime in and share their knowledge and their wisdom. We keep it a clean, fun, and safe environment where everyone can talk about crafting and share the things that they are passionate about. Now we're going to make a super easy wreath that is so stunning and high impact in your home. I picked this one up from Joann's and ended up getting it 50% off because it's larger than the ones that they sell at the Dollar Tree. I'm also going to take a book that I got from the Dollar Tree. I dunked it in water and put it outside and let it air dry so that it looked nice and weathered. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rip off a bunch of pages and we're going to just simply cut that in half so that they're shorter. You don't want them to be too long because otherwise this will be a massive, massive wreath. Go ahead and separate all those pages. And now we're going to come in and we're going to start to ruffle those papers. This is such a cool way to upcycle a book that is old that you've already read or not reading, or you just found it at a thrift store. For me, like I said, I picked mine up for $1.25 from the Dollar Tree. So what you're going to do is you're going to put a line of glue. I like to let it sit for a second so that it starts to dry a little bit, not where it's just too piping hot because you will burn your finger through the paper. And then you're going to start to add on those ruffles. And you're just basically going to keep repeating this process. Hot glue, put down ruffle paper, and I like everything to always be secure. So I'm going to come back in while stuff is drying a little bit, and I'm going to just simply staple this down. This is going to solve the solution. I know a lot of you say, hey, I live in a place where there's really, really hot heat, and the hot glue doesn't stay. So if you add on that staple, it'll really make sure it stays. Once you've gone all the way around the wreath, which, by the way, I'm going to be honest, this took me some time. It took me about 4 hours. And I ended up enlisting the help of my son just so I didn't hurt my fingers after a while from crinkling the paper up so much. I went all the way around and I made sure on the back side that I was having a nice finished look. I think this is where it makes it look more high-end quality, where you would see something like this in a boutique. Go ahead and make sure the very ending points leaves it where there's kind of a valley, so that way you can add on ribbon when you want to. Now I took a piece of ribbon and I first wrapped it around. I didn't glue it down, and then I glued my bow on top. This is the back side of that ribbon, not glued down, so that way I can tie it on and I can change out the ribbon all the time. Because with a project like this, if I'm going to go through the effort to make it, because it's so hands-on, I want to be able to make sure I can switch out the bow. So just make sure whatever bow that you're layering lots of different ribbons on, make sure you can switch it out. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead at the top and add on something to be able to hang it up. This is just such a beautiful farmhouse look to hang on a door inside your home or even your front door, and it'll just get even more weathered over time. This project is so simple and great for beginners. Let's say you want to try something new and you don't want to necessarily try a bunch of tools. Pick up one of these trays from the Dollar Tree and let's give it a makeover. I went outside, I spray painted it white, which is really easy and simple to do. Just make sure you put something down on the ground so that it doesn't spray paint other places, because that will be permanent. And then once it's dry, after a few hours, I bring it inside, and now I'm going to take some sandpaper and just sand around the edges to bring up that texture. Then I'm going to put in some shells. These are kind of like shell pebbles. I think that's what they are. I've had these forever, but you can use all sorts of different goodies that they have in their floral section at the Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to come in with some stones. This has such a beautiful restoration hardware or pottery barn or even Ballard home design look to it. Once you've got your pebbles on there, light your candle and set it out for display. This one is a little more work, but friends, I promise it is so worth it because the result is going to be so fun. All right, we're going to take 2 packs of foil and we're going to take one of these 3D wreath forms. We're going to take the second largest ring because the first one has that rod coming down. We're going to just go to the second one and we're going to snip off those little junction circles that brings the 3D form all together, and just toss those because we don't need those. And now you're going to find the joint where they're welded together. It snaps super simple, just like that. Go ahead and find the sizing that you want. I think mine was probably about 8 inches long when I started bending it. I think it's right about there, maybe even 9 inches. And I'm just going to start to bend it right at this point so it kind of has a cat eye shape. And then we're going to take our wire needle nose pliers and we're going to end that wire piece with a hook. That way so they can hook onto each other. I switched over to a white tabletop so you can see really well. So once you've got those hooked together, go ahead and then take your needle nose wire pliers and you're going to go ahead and bend that up the opposite way so that's hooked on there nice and tight and snug. You could even pinch it if you wanted to, but you can see I didn't do that. Now we're going to start to manipulate that longer piece of wire into a long, beautiful duck neck. Friends, we are going to be making a duck decoy. If you like to vintage thrift shop or boutique shop, you will know that these duck decoys are so ridiculously expensive. And on top of it, they're so hard to find. When you do find them, the prices are hefty. So I thought, you know what? We could totally make a duck decoy out of foil and wire because I've really been loving foil as a mixed medium here on my channel. So go ahead and bend that wire until you get it to a neck length and curve that you like, and then make sure you have some for its bill, its beak. Go ahead and just snip that part off, and you're going to go ahead and start to wrap foil around it. So I'm going to just take a nice big bundle amount and we're going to work on the body first so we can get that shape right. Go ahead and just rip off some, put that foil wire right on top of it, and you can just see that it just comes on it so perfectly, and start to form around for the duck's body. Friends, it is amazing what you can do with foil because it is a metal substitute and it allows it to be hard as you manipulate it and keep pushing it down. Now you can see here I've got a mallet next to me. I will link another mallet that I use. This is one from a long time ago from my scrapbook days. But go ahead and just keep hammering down that foil into place, and the more you hammer it, the more rock hard it starts to get, like metal. So once you've got that all in place for the body and you like the look of it, I'm doing more of a baby duck size, but you can do all different sizes and paint these all different colors, whatever you would like. I used the entire first roll for the body, and the second roll is going to be for the neck. That's why we need 2. So go ahead and just keep ripping that foil, and then we're now going to bring it up around the neck. Now the last time I did a foil project, I had a couple people asking me, does this have problems? Does it fall apart? No, it does not. Now the reason why we are going to do foil for the body and then we come back in with some painter's tape is because you just simply cannot paint foil. It will chip and fall off after time. Painter's tape actually does hold the paint and it seals it really nicely, because we're going to have another step in a second. I'll show you that in just a moment. But you can see here that I'm just hammering everything into place so it's nice and solid. I got it to a position that I like it, and isn't this a crack up? It's starting to look like the decoy ducks. I was so excited as I was making this project. Now I'm coming in with the painter's tape, and I'm going to start to cover the entire thing with foil. Now here is where you could run into a problem with the painter's tape. If you use a heat gun a whole bunch to dry the paint, it can cause the adhesive to want to lift away from the duck. Now that is an easy fix. You just have to simply push down all over the duck and the adhesive bonds back to it again, and it dries perfectly. I have done other projects in the past with these steps and techniques, and it is still looking great. My lamb that I did at Easter time, my carrots that I did at Easter time as well, they still are looking great, no problems. So once you've got your whole duck all covered with painter's tape, you want to try to get it as smooth as possible. Here's the next step. You're going to take caulk from the Dollar Tree. I just cut the tip off really big and wide so that it comes out really easily. And then you're going to cover the entire thing with caulk. I'm using 2 tubes of it. Once I've got that whole first layer on and I let it dry, it takes a couple hours. And again, this is not a project we're going to do all in one sitting. We're going to keep coming back to it. It took me about 2.5 days to make this decoy duck, but it was worth it. Once it was done drying that first coat, I came back in with a second, making sure it has a nice smooth finish on it, just like you would see in the decoy duck. Now here it is finished. Oh my word, isn't this so cool? You can do any color you want. I'm going to go with a wood grain to show you how you can get that wood effect. Start with your darkest brown paint. Now you can see I have a heat gun here and I'm using it, but I'm very sparingly using it in between sections where I know it's okay, and every time it's dry, I just give the duck a little squeeze to make sure all the tape and everything's bonded well. Now I'm going to start coming in with different layers of light paint. I'm on my 3rd coat of light paint, and at this point you want to start dry brushing. You do not want a brush that is so heavily saturated in paint, otherwise you won't get that wood effect look. So I'm just barely tapping it in, switching to a new brush. And now I'm going to just keep lightly brushing that paint on. You want to just keep repeating this process and keep taking down those different tones of paint. You can see here now I'm on my 4th, moving on to my 5th. I just keep bringing down that paint, adding on some different areas where it's a little heavier, some a little lighter. And once I've gotten it all the way down to the lightest color I want, now I'm going to come back in with that dark paint. And we're going to lightly dry brush. This is going to bring up the texture so it starts to make it look like driftwood, like these ducks should look when you pick them up. And I'm going to go pretty heavy around where you would see the water or a hand touch this thing, because that is something where it has gotten weathered and water damage from being outside for so long, just like you would see on the decoy ducks. That cost way too much money. I think the most I've ever seen one was almost $90. And I thought, why? Why are these $90? I don't understand. We can make this thing for like $7. So at this point, I've decided to dress up my little duck a little bit. I've created some wings on the back, and I'm going to go with blue. So I'm going to just add on some blue, bring in some of that brown and a little bit of gray. So I get this really pretty roughed mixed up. You can see I'm not perfectly mixing it. I want to see all those different colors in there. And I'm going to now paint those tails and wings. I'm just going to come around very slowly with this big paintbrush. I normally would use a small paintbrush, but the spacing was so large that I felt that the big paintbrush was going to work just fine. Now you can see as I didn't mix that paint up, I've got all of those different tones in there, and it makes the blue look weathered as well. This is the cool thing about paint. There's so many neat things you can do with it when you either saturate the color where it's very heavily mixed or it's lightly mixed and you're bringing in all kinds of different tones, and it just looks so beautiful. Now I could leave it like this, but I want it to look weathered. So I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to tap around, and as I'm tapping it, I'm bringing up some of that blue in random spots so it makes it look like the blue has been weathered from being outside too. This is a really cool technique where you can bring some of that color back up, some of that saturation and heaviness of it, and it'll allow that brown underneath to show so it looks like it's weathered. And if you got a little too much, you don't want it that weathered, you just kind of rub your finger and kind of blend it a little bit. You want to make sure you're doing it while it's wet, and be cautious while you're tapping not to accidentally get that blue on other spots. So keep your napkin clean as you're moving it around. And look at this. Doesn't that blue look so weathered now? I am going to next come back in with some light tan, and I'm going to just very gently tap around it again to bring in that weathered look. This is really starting to look like a very old weathered piece of wood. I had so much fun. I cannot express this. I know these are a lot of steps and this is a more advanced project, but if you are a diehard crafter and you love that vintage farmhouse look, these decoy ducks are so fun to make. So now I'm going to come in with some black paint, and I am going to very cautiously go back in and distress those areas again where the water would hit or a hand would touch it. And I'm going to just make sure it looks nice and weathered. And I'm going to come in with the back of my brush. I found a size that I thought would be a great size for a little eyeball. I'm going to put one on one side and one on the other side. And then once I've got my little duck eyeballs, it's so cute. I had so much fun making this. I'm now going to come in on the back. I've decided on the back of mine to put the number 10 because sometimes the duck decoys actually have numbers on the back of them so that different hunters, they have their numbers on them so they don't get them mixed up from each other. So you'll find them sometimes with numbers on them. I'm going to go ahead and just sketch it out with a Sharpie marker, and then I'm going to come back in with a smaller brush and I'm going to paint that in black. Now that black is a little too sharp and crisp, so we're going to want to take that down with the same technique with the napkin. Just go ahead and place it on, rub it, lift it, and you can see how it ended up removing some of the paint and allowing that blue to now show through, so it looks like it has just been weathered over time. At this point, we could stop there, but I've decided to create a little collar around my duck. Sometimes ducks have these lines around their necks, and I went around with two, one a little bit thicker, one a little bit thinner, and at this point, our duck is finished.
Today was so enjoyable making these 5 crafts. I hope you will give one of them a try or take an idea from them and run with your own project. I love trying to inspire you in many different ways, whether you're copying the project yourself and replicating it for your home, or you're taking some of the ideas and turning them into your own projects. There is something so rewarding knowing that you're enjoying these videos and being able to share this talent that I have with all of you who also possess this talent or are working on your talent. I'm so grateful for all of you and taking part, being here in my craft room. I hope you get a chance to be in your craft room today. Now I'm gonna recommend a couple of videos right here at the end that's similar to this one. And until the next episode, bye friends.